I maybe regret like time wasted. I wish I could have tapped into how I feel now. Hey, I'm Alex.
And I'm Faiven.
And welcome to Let's Talk About It.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, we want to hear from you, so comment below during the video.
Today we are talking about success. How do you define it and what does it mean to achieve it?
Girl, all my life I had to fight. So let's talk about it. But first, rapid fire.
You can only pick one, fame or success.
Success.
Smart.
At what point in your career did you feel like a professional?
The first time I had somebody doing my hair, somebody doing my nails, somebody tying the ankle strap and helping me into my feet, and I had 3 people on me at one time, I was like, oh honey, we made it. Can you be successful without being financially well off?
Yes, because there's different categories. Money is not the only category. What if you are sober now for 10 years? That's a success.
Okay.
How often are you worried about money?
Not as much as I used to be. If someone offered you $1 million, but you couldn't talk to your family for 1 whole year, would you take it?
Yeah, I don't know them. Who? A year go by fast.
Wow, okay.
What part of your personality do you not want your kids to inherit?
Part of my personality that obsesses over perfectionism, because that is just a never-ending cycle and unattainable. When you picture a successful life, what does it include?
Peace. Having the basics covered and then a little bit extra.
Okay.
True or false? Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
I'm gonna say false. If you had a more successful career than your partner, would that affect how you felt about him?
No. What's the question again?
You making more than him, sis.
I think the answer is no. What's mine is yours, vice versa. Throw it all in the pot.
Okay.
You still the man. You still the man, boo. You the man of the house. What you want me to do, babe? The most important thing I've learned from my co-host Faiven is blank.
Why you write this question?
Because I can.
The most important thing I learned from my co-host,
Faiven,
that I can't stress, especially not when she's stressing. I just gotta let her do her thing.
I was hoping for a more uplifting response.
To be more organized. She's the one that has us doing show notes and stuff and color coding and bold and outlines. So I actually asked my daughter the other night what her definition of success was. And mind you, she's 13. And she was like, that's a really good question, Mom. And I was like, all right, well, what is it? And she was like, I think to have good goals, a good career, a good mindset, and to have healthy relationships. And I was like, wow. Cool. When I was 13, my answer was more like, to be rich and famous, maybe like married, but like no real concept of what it takes to get to marriage outside of, you do it, you walk down the aisle and then happily ever after, duh. So I'm very proud of myself as a parent. Let me start there. But yeah, what about you?
So, oh wow, I'm still kind of shocked that was her
we
response.
Need a minute, right?
I'm like, how are you more mature than me? At 13.
Right.
Yeah, I was definitely glued to the TV and I wanted to be like rich and famous and like, wow. Or cause like we watched like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Clueless, like these big mansions and stuff. And I'm like,
even regular shows, like the kids' teenage rooms were a dream, and it just set us up for this false sense of what was really within. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, reality?
Yeah. Like I didn't have that big room with the inflatable sofa and like the just all that cool stuff. Like I had a small room with like a twin bed and I shared it with my sister.
Oh my gosh, I also shared my room with my sister. And I was like, oh man, our life sucks.
Right.
We haven't made it. Mind you, we live in great in the suburbs. So yes, very unrealistic. But my whole worldview changed when I was 15 because I spent a summer with my dad in Africa. We went to Eritrea, where he was from, and going from a rich, white, Jewish Connecticut suburb for my whole childhood, and then spending a summer in a village. Well, we did stay in the city a little bit, but also we went out to the village. It just changes a child in ways that, like, no amount of reading or watching documentaries can, because I actually lived it. And I'm like, wow, seeing how happy people were not having a lot of stuff was so amazing. Like smiles from ear to ear, kids running around playing with whatever they find on the ground, rocks, sticks, sustenance farmers. Like some of the cows even were emaciated, but them was their cows. They're like, this is my cow right here. So old Bessie's still hanging in there. And I'm like, wow, it just, and then going back to the material abundance after that, it just didn't hit the same.
Yeah.
So I think my minimalism probably stemmed from that.
Yeah.
Because I knew that happiness had nothing to do with getting a bunch of stuff. And so then I leaned more towards how do I feel on the inside and like mental stuff. So success to me does not mean mansion and Maserati and Chanel bags and this and that. All that stuff is actually kind of silly to me. I feel like even if you have the money, it's still kind of a waste. Like, I don't know, it's a bag is a bag. Go to TJ Maxx and get you a bag. What's the big deal? So success to me is just peace and having enough to cover all of your bills and not struggle, and then a little bit extra so you can travel, so you can eat good, so you can see your friends and family, so you can do the little things that bring you joy. Like I'm big into like maintenance, like if you want to do skincare. I do my own nails because it brings me joy, and it's like kind of therapeutic to like lay out all the stuff, and like even the gel, I do gels, like the little LED lamp, and you're like, oh, what movie am I gonna watch? And then it's like so nice. But if you want to go to the salon, that's that too. But like just having enough to live well and then a little bit extra, that's success to me.
Capitalism really has you out here believing that you need to be more and have more to be fulfilled. And it is the biggest lie that we're stuffing down people's throats. I know you've probably seen those videos too. I don't know if the goal is like shock factor, but like the influencers that just have everything in excess, they make you feel like your mom bag that you pack needs to have 30 million gadgets in it, or your pantry needs to have everything like just like labeled and sub-labeled. And I'm not getting my cereal out of a box to put in another box and then refill that box and keep that stacked with that label. And well, what if I don't buy that cereal no more? Now can I mix the Apple Jacks with the Cheerios? Like, it's just like crazy. And sometimes I feel like I'm not organized, or I don't have enough, or because when I open up my fridge, I don't have all these clear plastic containers perfectly labeled. Like, it makes me feel like I'm a mess. But I'm like, everybody is not living like that and on that level. And I sometimes have to remind myself that, hey, you don't really want these things. Before you got on here and started doom scrolling, you weren't even thinking about having a meticulously organized fridge that looks like it was stocked by a hotel manager, you know, like you were happy before you opened this phone, tap back into that. But when you see these things, like, I don't know, my brain just goes, oh my gosh, well, do I need that too? Is my joy attached to these purchases? And the answer is no.
Yeah, which is why you got to be careful about what you consume. It's not just like, oh, don't consume scary things and watch like horror films because then you'll have a bad dream at night. It's stuff like that too. Like when you compare your fridge to someone else's fridge and all that overconsumption and restocking, there is something satisfying about watching the restocking just because it's so neat. And I'm like, oh yes. Like sometimes I stop into the Container Store just because I'm like, this is very nice.
But first you got to spend $300 on containers.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm above it, so I have not fallen victim to that. But if anything, I like the Marie Kondo of it all, which is like, let it go, like shed it all, declutter, and then organize what's left, not buy a bunch of stuff to organize your junk. Because at the end of the day, there is no difference between those viral TikTok videos and an episode of Hoarders.
Right.
It's just prettier.
You know what quote I've been seeing floating around the internet lately? If it was covered in poop, would you throw it away or would you wash it? And they invite you to look at everything that you own and ask yourself that question to help keep you from accumulating too much stuff and just take inventory of how much you value the things around you. There are very little things, like my wedding band, if not sure how, this got covered in poop.
You have a child. I'm very Like, I can easily see that be covered in poop when you have a baby running around.
Don't jinx me.
That baby be throwing poop.
No. We are not flinging poop, and I rebuke that. Do not. I've made it this far without this thing being covered in poop, and I hope that will continue. But if it were, this is something that I would clean. But when you just take that perspective and you like look around and take inventory, it is kind of like, oh, yeah, a lot of this would go.
Yeah. So material things definitely do not define success for either of us, and for other people, we know depressed people who have a lot of things. So it's like, obviously, that doesn't seem to be successful just because you can buy certain things.
But the grass is always greener. So people that are, like depressed or feel like life isn't going their way right now, or like, oh, if I just had, X, Y, and Z or this dollar amount. But if you don't know how to manage your money, it doesn't matter how much money you come into, the money is going to go just as quickly as it came. Yeah. And sure, people love to say, well, I'd rather be rich and depressed than broke and depressed. And I understand that, because sometimes, our depression can be like situational or maybe even seasonal. Of course, you're depressed if you're, struggling to make ends meet and the baby is screaming and, you and your partner are fighting. I think that's appropriate in that moment. But I know enough now to know that money is not going to necessarily be the only thing that changes my mental state.
The caveat there with money is you need to have enough to cover bare necessities, and then we're talking about more money, because obviously if somebody is struggling, money will solve their problems. Like, people keep forgetting that when they're like, money doesn't solve. Yes, it does. If you don't have any money and someone gives you a lot of money, it does change your life for the better, period. We're talking about the excess, you know what I mean? So if you have a place to live, if you can pay your bills and you can afford food and a vacation once or twice a year, you have money. So we're talking about more money.
Yeah. So I do think finances it does play a part in how I define success, but it's just not the only part. I think a big measure of success is also like the relationships in your life. Like, do you have friends and friendships that have lasted 5, 10, 15 years? Like, that is a real flex. Do your kids want to spend time with you when they are adults and no longer under your roof? Are they still coming back to visit you? All of those things are equally as important to me as money.
Yeah, the intangibles.
Yeah.
I say that because my parents, we don't have that much in common just as adults. Like, if they weren't my parents, like, different hobbies, interests, religions, just everything is different. But like, what binds us is that we are related. And when my mom and I would have our girly kikis and we'd talk about my dad, like, he's just, this old man, we love him. But he's just so African and so stoic and so quiet that I'm like, wow. I'm glad I have such a reverence for my dad, because when I go home to visit, there's not much happening. But if he didn't do well as a father and like push us in the right direction, and like all of us are successful in our own right, independent, healthy, happy, thriving, like if he didn't do what he needed to do when we were younger, I don't think we would have the reverence that we have for him. And then to go out of my way, block off my calendar to go visit and just to sit and do nothing with an old man. There is something to say about that. And I think he probably sits there in his silence and stoicism, like, just proud that he's like, I did that. Like, I'm sitting here, I ain't gonna move from this couch, but I did that. My kids are coming to visit me.
And I definitely appreciate that more, especially as we get older, because again, we grew up with the TV shows where everything was happy-go-lucky. The parents always loved each other, never fought. The siblings always got along, and that's just not the case. And I know so many people now that have siblings, and they don't get along. They talk sometimes, they visit sometimes, or they have nieces and nephews, and they kind of like do what they can, but they're not really close to them. I love how close I am with my sisters. I love that. Even though if you were to maybe ask us about something in childhood, you would get 3 different versions of events. And it's like, do we even grow up in the same roof? But, despite our differences, and there are many, we're not always on the same page with how we view things, whether that's like political or traditional or even just, I don't know, like the type of foods we eat. Like, we're just 3 different people, but we still love each other, and we still support each other and show up for each other and our kids and make an effort to be part of each other's lives. And I just really appreciate that where I am in my life now.
My siblings and I, there's also 3 of us, we're all very different as well. And we are still close. The group chats are popping, and then you got the side chats, you know. You got the main chats, and then you got to talk about what happened in the main chat on the side chat. So it's like, you know, but it's all love there. You just got to know your audience. But just like how we're different, like also our work is different, and like especially our industries, like defining success is weird. Maybe someone from the outside, they're like, oh yeah, if you're a model, you're successful if you get a Vogue cover. If you're an actor, you're successful if you get an Oscar, you know, but it's not like that. Me, I define my success in this weird industry different ways, like all the little wins along the way. So when I started, I was super green, and I was already in my 20s, and a lot of people, I had imposter syndrome because I was comparing myself to people who went to like NYU Tisch and studied this technique, and I just went in and I'm like, I can read words. So I read them words. And so to me, the success is, it feels so much greater knowing I didn't have nepotism to get me in. I didn't have money to get me in. It was just talent, and I figured it out. So it was very, very much self-made as far as getting agents, booking my first commercial, getting my first print spread in a publication, saying my first words on a TV show. All those little wins along the way are so epic, and I wish there was a way to hold on to that sense of pride and gratitude and joy, because it's so fleeting. You know, like younger you would be so jazzed to find out the things that you've accomplished. But then current you is like, yeah, but that was last year. And you want the next one. So I'm like, oh, I just wish there was a way to bottle that feeling so that I can carry that with me all the time.
But that book, I don't know if you were able to start it yet. I got her a book not too long ago, but it talks about that. It talks about how everybody has a baseline, and some people are only able to experience joy for small amounts of time, and then they're like uncomfortable because it's not new and it's a practice, and then they're like, okay, let me chill, let me relax. But it's actually the same way like meditation is a practice. Like, you know, at first you're sitting there, but you have all those intrusive thoughts. Like learning how to sit in your joy and prolong your joy is a practice, and it requires you to like stretch your baseline. Kind of like, you know, you go outside, and if you're not super social, you're like, all right, I can be in that setting for 5 minutes. Now I got to come back in the house and recharge. So for me, learning how to sit in my joy is a practice too, because it's almost like, no, I can't be happy for too long because then something is going to happen. And it's that feeling of waiting for the other shoe to fall off. But it's like, no. I earned this, I did this, so I'm going to sit in this. And yes, move the goalpost, continue to climb and achieve, but at some point you're now also on another hamster wheel if you're not able to just kind of like chill in like a moment of contentment. Like I think we deserve that.
Yeah. And I know some people in my industry who are farther than me career-wise, like way more credits, larger projects, more well-known, and you can still see some sadness, or I guess sadness maybe is the wrong word. Like they're not as content as I would think they would be, having achieved as much as they've achieved. TV shows, producing, writing, and I'm like, oh no. So this is the same thing all over again, just on different levels. So if I book a big show tomorrow, if I book a big movie, yeah, you're gonna ride that high until it falls off. So just like anything else, it is a practice, that joy. So I do need to start that book, because you're right, I haven't started it yet. And that's something I think about all the time, because success, I think it varies depending on who you are and where you're starting from. So if you're taking someone from my father's village who's just literally playing in the dirt, like that's normal to them, and then they make their way to America and do at least the old school American dream, where you like figure it out, you go to school, you learn English, like, and then you work your way up and you have a good job and buy a house and have a family, and you're like, look at that, I did it. That level of success is very different from someone who was born in America, their parents both had corporate jobs, they had maybe a bank account set up for them when they were younger, and then it's like, okay, I already have a baseline. at least money-wise and stability-wise, it's like up here versus that immigrant coming here. So then you're going to define success differently. You're probably going to be like, okay, I need to start a company because everyone in my family starts a company, and my brother's company just went public. So now I feel like, oh, I need to hurry up and, you know, go to Wall Street with my company. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just different. It just depends who you are and what circumstances you were born into.
Absolutely. I know growing up, a lot of times we're influenced by the definition our parents might have of success, and them kind of casting that onto us, and then feeling like if you don't live up to their definition of success, then you are not successful. You are maybe even a failure. And you don't ever want to disappoint yourself. You don't want to disappoint the people that you love. You also, you know, don't want to disappoint the people that are maybe helping finance whatever path you're on. And so, especially as a parent now, I can only imagine how terrified my parents were when I said, all right, I'm packing up everything that can go in my car and I'm driving cross country to LA to pursue modeling. Like, what? You know, my dad went into the military, so immediately he had, you know, structure. He had that stability of like the regular paycheck. My mom stopped working when she had us, and she was a stay-at-home mom, so just everything terrified her. Like, she pulled us from field trips if it was on a train or a boat because she just read the news too much. So between the two of them, like, they definitely did not want me to pursue modeling. The success rate of somebody going after that industry is just very low. Like, I don't know the numbers, but like the amount of models that make it are very small. The amount of models that are catapulted to like the fame and celebrity status is even smaller. So yeah, they were terrified, but it was something that I wanted to do. At the time, for me, some of the little markers that I set for myself were, all right, if I can get signed, that is a show of success. If I can get a billboard, that is a show of success. If I can get, you know, a print publication, that is a show of success. And eventually I was able to do those things, but then also with just like the toxicity that comes with that industry, I was like, all right, being able to keep my head above water is a show of success. Being able to turn down the drinks and all the events is a show of success. Being able to just like not succumb to like the pressure and like some of the industry standards is a show of success, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. So my definition has definitely like flip-flopped and broadened at times. But I think the fact that I've been able to model this long across different markets through just physical body changes of my own, having more kids, is something I would count as success.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most success, I feel like, is intangible, like your mental state and your evolution. I feel that same exact way. Like, even with dating, I know like the universe tries to give you the same message over and over again until you finally learn the lesson. And like that happened recently. I remember telling you and Joe, this guy, I had just met him. We were talking for a few weeks. He's 10 years older than me, and I know he has means, but still, we hung out only one time at a wine bar. And then the next invitation was, do you want to come to Paris this weekend?
Yeah, that was a red flag for me.
So younger me would have been like, yep, here my passport, because I have been flued out before. I have done all the things. I have lived a life. But grown me, like evolved me, things that's just so inappropriate. It's like, I don't even know you. What a wild thing to throw out there. I know Meghan Markle's second date was like in Africa or something, because Prince homeboy has something to do, and she was like, I'll be right over there, and then they got married. I get it, but I feel like this wasn't the vibe, like, because we didn't even have conversations about like marriage and kids or anything. I don't even know his life like that. So I was like, I'm intrigued, but no thank you. And he was like, fair.
Proud of you.
Thanks. Yeah. And I'm like, most people would probably say yes. You know what I mean? But it doesn't get you anything. And that happened to me another time. Remember, homeboy, I wish we could put names out here, but it's not that type of podcast. We're classy, here. We're classy. Yeah, we're trying to learn and evolve and grow. But someone I dated, the on again, off again guy, when it was finally off for the final time, but we were friends still, kind of. He had invited me to DC to a show, and he's like, oh, like I'll fly you out here, or Amtrak, whatever you want, put you up in the hotel, this and that, and then the show is gonna be amazing. Then when there's an after party and this and that, and I was like, oh, if it's for free, it's for me. But that was the first time that the universe said, and I was like, wait, no. So I was like, no. Mm-hmm. And he was like, totally cool. So then now I'm like, okay, I learned as an adult, money is just a tool and people use it to get what they want. Mm-hmm. So for someone who doesn't have as much money, your eyes will light up. But that's the devil trying to get you. Mm-hmm. Not me making all these biblical references, and every other day I'm like, I'm not religious, and I'm like, the devil.
The Lord works in mysterious ways. He's working on you, girl.
Not me being saved in real time, but that is the devil. And so now these men who are like, let's go eat here somewhere fancy, or let's fly out here somewhere fancy. I'm just like, no, because it's like, are you looking for a wife? Are you looking to start a family? Like, you're not gonna buy me, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I learned that lesson. I'm glad I learned that lesson before I was used up and thrown away.
Yep.
So that is successful. It is a mindset shift to be like, no, I am not moved by other people's wallets and bank accounts. Mm-hmm. And I think that's successful, to still keep your eye on the prize, which is a healthy, happy relationship based on lifestyle compatibility and similar values and morals. Yeah. You can't just shine something in my face and be like, look at it, it's shiny, you want it? And I'm like, okay, no.
I think all of that true, yes. I think also being able to just like sit with yourself, enjoy your own company, being able to sit with those thoughts and not have to busy your mind or, just escape, whether it is through mindlessly watching TV. Like, you'd be surprised how many people are truly uncomfortable with themselves to the point that just sitting in silence for maybe 20 minutes might eat at them. I really enjoy my own company. I enjoy sitting with my husband in silence sometimes, and it's not uncomfortable. I just enjoy the people that I have around me, and it's not a lot. I think before, younger me thought that success meant having 10 or 20 friends or hosting all these parties, and it's just laughable now because it's like all these extroverted things that I see on TV, and then when I really take inventory of who and how I am, I can't manage that many relationships at one time. I think it's much more important to me to have a few connections that are strong, that are manageable, and I have that. I'm not a host. I don't think I'm ever going to host a dinner party of 20 people. I don't know 20 people that I would want to invite at the same time, or that I could even trust to get along. And yeah, I think that the relationships that I have in my life make me really happy. I think the fact that I am comfortable in my own skin, that I can say, oh, I might not like everything, but also it is what it is. Like, there are bigger fish to fry. That makes me happy. I don't just love my kids. I like my kids. That makes me happy. I don't have any regrets like, oh, what have I done? I've created this thing. Like, no, all days are not good days, but for the most part, I think I am leading a successful life, at least by my own standards.
Do you have any regrets?
I regret things like time wasted. I regret the emotional labor that I can't get back. I regret how many years I was depressed and didn't see a way out because I just thought that the whole world had conspired against me. Yeah, I maybe regret like time wasted. I wish I could have tapped into how I feel now, but I feel like that's just like impossible. I feel this way now because of the things that I got through. I am just grateful that I was able to get through them so that I could be on this side. So many people like succumb to their depression, or they succumb to their negative thoughts, and what happens then is like you never get to this version of you now. Like, if I had never made it through, I just wouldn't have this perspective. I wouldn't be sitting here as 33-year-old me knowing, oh my gosh, it gets better, just keep going. So yeah, I regret, the time spent, the time it took to get here. I'm like, oh, why wasn't there a faster track? But I don't think there was.
Well, you did come to the other side, which is amazing.
Thank you, thank you.
And that sounds like success to me.
On that note, we want to hear from you. How do you define success?
Yes, what are you proud of personally? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. I kind of like this with jeans.
Yeah, but we'll unpack that later.
Oh my God, you actually agreed with something on style.
Well, I like it with pants. I don't know that I like it with those jeans, but a good wide leg flare pant I think would be good.